Redemptorist Media Center derives its motto and its mission from the saying, "Preach the gospel ever anew." This saying came from the lips of one of the great Redemptorists of the 19th century, St. Clement Hofbauer. He is considered the second founder of the Redemptorists after St. Alphonsus Liguori, and today the Redemptorists celebrate the closing of the bicentennial death anniversary of this great saint. To commemorate this day, we have a short video in which Father General, Father Mike Brehl, shares with us his thoughts and inspirations from the life and example of this great saint, followed by a brief biography presented to you in a creative manner. With this short video, we wish our friends, our benefactors, our viewers and subscribers a very happy feast of St. Clement Hofbauer.
Kind first, brothers and sisters, on Monday, March 15th, we celebrate the feast of St. Clement Maria Hofbauer. With this celebration, we officially close our Jubilee year in honor of the 200th anniversary of his death. This Jubilee year coincided with the COVID-19 pandemic. This forced us to cancel almost all the celebrations planned, the pilgrimages, the special Eucharists, and the congresses. At the same time, this pandemic invited us to make our own, today, the creative missionary spirit of St. Clement. This Jubilee year, we have honored the spirit of St. Clement more by our witness and our actions than through our celebrations. Like Clement 200 years ago, in spite of all the obstacles and restrictions, we have not given up. Across the congregation, Redemptorist missionaries have explored creative new ways to bring the gospel to everyone through digital streaming, online missions and retreats, and virtual encounters and gatherings. We continue to preach the gospel ever anew. All over the world, Redemptorists and lay missionaries have reached out to serve the poor and the abandoned, the isolated and marginalized. We've served migrants and refugees, the hungry, those who are lost. New projects have begun. Existing projects have been strengthened. The pandemic forced us to cancel assemblies, retreats, chapters, and interprovincial gatherings. Despite the obstacles to in-person meetings, we've even continued our restructuring mission for the sake of the mission. And most of us now have learned a new word, Zoom. As we celebrate Clement this weekend, I invite you to recognize the ways that his spirit is alive and well in the congregation today. He encourages us, he continues to inspire us, and he accompanies us. The Jubilee year is almost over, but the pandemic, with all of its challenges, continues. Like the world in which Clement preached the gospel anew, our wounded world continues to be ravaged by war, by poverty, by oppression, by indifference. Like Clement, we go forward with courage and hope, trusting in Jesus our Redeemer, who calls us to mission to bring plenteous redemption to the abandoned poor. May God bless us all as we remember this wonderful confrere. With Clement, we celebrate our missionary vocation to witness to the Redeemer and to preach the gospel ever anew. St. Clement, pray for us. God bless you all.
It was the Christmas day of 1751 in Taswitz, Moravia, today in Czech Republic. Maria and Paul Hofbauer, a devout couple, were expecting their 9th child, a Christmas baby. But the Lord had his own plans for this holy child. Maria Hofbauer gave birth to a baby boy the next day, on the feast of St. Stephen the Martyr. He was given the name John. As little John grew up, he wanted to be a priest. Unfortunately, he had neither the opportunity nor the money. In 1767, he went to work to the bakery of a monastery of the White Monks in Klosterbruck. But his dream would not die. There was a divine restlessness about him. He would continue to think about it and work for it. In 1782, he went on a pilgrimage to Italy, to Tivoli for 6 months. He decided to become a hermit at the shrine of Our Lady of Quintiliolo. He requested the hermit's habit from the local bishop. It was at this time that John Hofbauer took on the name Clement Mary. In 1783, with the financial help of 2 rich women, he and his friend Thaddeus Hubel were now able to pay for their seminary education. Although they studied in the University of Vienna, they were not pleased, as it was controlled by the anti-religious government. So again, Clement with his companion Thaddeus went on a pilgrimage to Rome. On arriving in Rome, they resolved to go for Mass at the first church whose bells they heard the following morning. The Angelus led them to San Giuliano, a church served by the Redemptorists. There, the 2 seminarians were accepted into the Redemptorist novitiate. On the feast of St. Joseph, March 19th, 1785, Clement Hofbauer and Thaddeus Hubel became Redemptorists, publicly professing to live the vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. 10 days later, they were ordained to the priesthood at the Cathedral of Alatri in Italy itself. A childhood dream was then fulfilled, but that was only the beginning of a lifetime of bigger dreams. Shortly after their ordination, these first 2 non-Italian Redemptorists were called by their superior general, Father De Paula. He commissioned them to return to their homeland across the Alps and establish the Redemptorist congregation in Northern Europe. Behind the heroic courage of the young missionaries and the extraordinary confidence of the superiors on these 2, there was God's bigger plan unfolding. But it would not be without many hurdles. Emperor Joseph II of Austria had suppressed some 1,000 monasteries and convents and was not about to allow the establishment of a foreign order whose goal was preaching and missionary work among the poor. Hence, when the newly ordained Redemptorists, Father Clement and Father Thaddeus, arrived in Vienna, their stay was brief because of the tense political and religious situation. They decided to move to Warsaw in Poland. If Vienna was hostile, Warsaw was not any better. There was civil war. The people and even the diocesan priests looked upon these foreign German-speaking priests with suspicion. In spite of the turbulent situation, Clement often crossed borders, from Moravia to Italy, Austria, France, and Poland. He established communities in the Baltic region of Russia, southern Germany, and Switzerland, all the while hoping to find a suitable spot for the formation of Redemptorist vocations. Besides promoting Redemptorist vocations, we have the distinct impression of Clement as a man who viewed the laity as valued collaborators in the apostolate and not merely as the object of pastoral work. During Clement's 21 years in Warsaw, there was hardly a peaceful moment. Yet, he managed to serve God's people in many and different ways. He started an orphanage, a school, and he made the almost deserted St. Benno's Church a thriving center of faith and renewal. In the church, Clement and the community of Redemptorists began what they called the perpetual mission. Instead of having just a morning mass in the church on a weekday, they had a full-scale mission every day of the year. He had to face more opposition on account of his good work. His opponents saw him as a threat. Eventually, the decree of expulsion was signed on June 9, 1808. 11 days later, the Church of St. Benno's was closed, and the 40 Redemptorists serving there were taken off to prison. They lived there for 4 weeks and then were ordered to return to their own countries. After a period of imprisonment, St. Clement left on foot for Vienna, leaving behind him the destruction of his life's work. Yet, in the 12 years in Vienna, until the end of his life, he established a whole network of apostolic activity, which merited for him the title of Apostle of Vienna. And this, despite the fact that he was under constant surveillance. In the early days of 1800s, Vienna was a major European cultural center. Clement enjoyed spending time with the students and the intellectuals. Students came to his quarters to talk, share a meal, or get advice. A good many of them later became Redemptorists. The literary and Christian action group which gathered around Clement became known as the Hofbauer Circle. It included men and women, nobles and middle class, scholars, artists, diplomats, and prelates who gathered to discuss faith and the issues of the day. Saint Clement, therefore, presents the pattern of the creative attempts to adapt our apostolate to situations very different from those of Naples, where the Redemptorists began. His life was influenced by one of his favorite exhortations: the gospel must be preached in new ways. Clement became ill in early March and died on 15th March 1820. That is why 15th March is officially celebrated as his feast day, as it marks his entry into heaven. And this year, we celebrate the 200th anniversary of the death of St. Clement Mary Hofbauer.